I thought love had no place in war. Then he touched me for the first time, and everything I believed shattered like glass under gunfire. The battlefield above Earth was nothing but fire and wreckage. Starships burned like dying suns across the black, spilling debris into orbit. Alarms screamed through the metal corridors of our cruiser, and I pressed my back to the cold steel wall, clutching my rifle with trembling hands. That was when he walked past me. Captain Orion Kane. He was a name whispered like both prayer and curse among the ranks. Cold, untouchable, the soldier who never bent, never broke. They said he had ice instead of blood, that he could stare into the heart of an exploding star and not flinch. And yet, as his gloved hand brushed against my arm, steadying me in the chaos, I swore I felt warmth radiate through the fabric of my uniform. "You're in my unit now," he said, his voice low, cutting through the roar of distant cannon fire. "Stay alive. That's an order." An order. That was what I expected from him. But I didn't expect the flicker in his gaze. A spark of something human beneath the iron discipline. It was gone in an instant, swallowed by the mask he wore. But I had seen it. And once you see a star, you can't make yourself forget it exists. We were assigned to the front lines of the Helios Belt, a wasteland of shattered moons where alien fleets prowled like predators. The barracks were cramped, the air smelled of oil and ozone, and the silence between missions pressed heavier than the gravity generators. Orion slept 2 bunks away, his posture rigid even in rest, as if the war haunted his bones. I hated him, or maybe I wanted to, because hating him would have been easier than admitting how my chest ached every time he walked by, how my pulse betrayed me whenever his hand brushed too close. One night, after a battle that left half our squad bleeding in the med bay, I found him outside, sitting on the edge of the hangar with the stars stretching endless and cruel above us. His armor lay discarded beside him, and for the first time he looked human. Just a man with shadows in his eyes. "You should be asleep," he murmured, not looking at me. "And you?" I asked. He let out a dry laugh. "Sleep and I don't get along." There was silence then, the kind that was heavier than words. And in that silence, I realized the stories were wrong. He wasn't ice. He was fire locked in iron, burning so fiercely it threatened to consume itself. "I don't understand you," I whispered. Orion turned his head finally, and his eyes caught mine, blue, unyielding, but trembling with something fragile beneath. "Good," he said. "You're not supposed to." But his voice cracked on the last word, and I saw through him. The war raged on. Days blurred into nights, victories into losses. We buried names until the list was too long to carry. And through it all, Orion stayed by my side, shielding me in firefights, dragging me from wreckage, standing just close enough that I could almost feel his heartbeat echoing against my own. It hurt wanting him. It hurt worse than the bullets, the burns, the broken ribs, because he was a man built on duty, on sacrifice. And love was a luxury soldiers didn't afford themselves. Until the day I almost died. The ambush came on the fractured plains of Vera 9. Alien fire rained down, scorching the sand into glass. Our comms failed, our squad scattered. I remember falling, pinned beneath debris, breath leaving me in ragged bursts. And then Orion was there, his hands on me, voice raw with something I had never heard from him before: fear. "Stay with me," he shouted, dragging me out, his arms trembling as he pulled me against his chest. "Don't you dare die on me. Do you hear me?" I tried to answer, but the darkness swallowed my words. The last thing I felt was his grip, desperate and shaking. When I woke in the med bay, he was there. Not at a distance this time. Not hiding behind duty or discipline. He was sitting beside me, head bowed, his hand still holding mine. And for the first time since I had known him, he looked broken. "You scared the hell out of me," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I thought I lost you." My chest tightened, tears burning my eyes. Why would that matter to you?" His jaw clenched, his breath unsteady. Then he leaned closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him, smell the metal and smoke that clung to his skin. "Because," he said, and the word trembled. Because it's you. It's always been you. That was the beginning. The moment the walls he built began to crumble. But war wasn't kind to love. And the universe had a way of testing the fragile things we dared to hold. I thought his confession would break me. Instead, it healed something I didn't know was bleeding. For days after, I couldn't stop replaying his words. Because it's you. Like a code etched into my soul. They lingered, vibrating through every breath I took. Orion didn't say more. He didn't need to. His silence was heavy. But this time it wasn't a wall, it was shelter. He watched me, tended to me in the quiet moments, and though the war still demanded our blood, there was something unspoken between us that softened the edges of the cruelty. Yet love, in the middle of a battlefield, felt like holding glass in our bare hands. Beautiful, fragile, and always one wrong move away from shattering. The final campaign came without warning. Our fleet was ordered to cut deep into enemy territory, to strike at the heart of their command. Whispers spread through the corridors. Suicide mission. We all knew it, but orders were orders, and soldiers had no right to hope for survival. I caught Orion's gaze before boarding the dropship. He didn't speak, neither did I, but when his gloved hand brushed mine, just for a second, I felt the electricity of something far greater than fear. We went to war with that silent promise in our veins. The battle was fire and chaos. Explosions painted the black sky in shades of red. I lost sight of him in the storm, and every breath was a prayer I didn't believe in. I tore through alien soldiers with a rage I had never felt before, not for duty, not for survival, but for him, for the chance to see him again. And then I found him, pinned against the wreck of a starship, bleeding from his shoulder, fighting off 3 enemies at once. Without thinking, I charged in, pulling the trigger until the air reeked of burning flesh. When the last one fell, Orion collapsed into my arms, his body heavy, trembling. "Idiot!" he hissed, blood staining his lips. "You shouldn't have come back for me." I held him tighter, fury and terror twisting in my chest. "Don't you dare say that. You don't get to order me out of loving you." His eyes widened, shock cracking through his pain. For a heartbeat, the war fell silent around us. Then his hand, weak but steady, rose to cup my face. "I never wanted you in this hell," he whispered. "But you're the only reason I survived it." We dragged each other out of the flames, step by step, until the last battle was done. The enemy fell. Our fleet, battered but unbroken, returned home. And somehow, impossibly, we were still breathing. The war ended, but the scars remained. Orion carried his like metal, silent, solemn. I carried mine in the nightmares that clawed me awake at night. And yet there was light now, a fragile light, born in the darkest places. We rented a small place on the outskirts of a quiet American city, where the skies were no longer burning, but filled with the hum of crickets and the gentle glow of streetlights. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring out the window, his posture still too rigid, his jaw tight as if he expected gunfire to erupt at any second. But then he'd feel my hand slip into his, and he'd soften. Just enough. One evening, I found him sitting on the porch steps, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His hair, once kept military sharp, had grown longer, softer. He looked at me, not with the cold steel of a captain, but with the warmth of a man who had finally allowed himself to belong to someone. "You saved me," he said quietly. I sat beside him, resting my head on his shoulder. We saved each other. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was peace. It was the sound of 2 men who had survived everything the universe tried to break them with and still found a way to love. I thought back to the first time I met him, to the way his voice had cut through fire and chaos with nothing but orders. I had believed then that he was nothing more than ice, that if I followed him I would freeze too. But I was wrong. Orion Kane wasn't cold. He was fire-fierce, consuming, unrelenting. And in the middle of war, he had given me warmth when I thought I was nothing but ash. The war had taken so much. Friends, homes, years we could never get back. But in its cruel, twisted way, it had given me something I never thought I deserved. him. And as he leaned down, pressing his lips against mine for the first time under the quiet American night, I realized that this was what survival truly meant. Not just breathing, not just living, but loving. And in his arms, I finally understood. Even in a universe built on war, love could be the most powerful victory of all. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.